beautiful downtown Milheim, in the smack dab center of the Keystone State. This is Lou Bryson with Seen Through a Glass, a podcast that's mostly about food and drink in central Pennsylvania. Welcome to episode 72. Great whiskey, great story. Not gonna lie to you folks, I'm tired after the holidays just like you. We're in that long slog from New Year's to the next holiday. I mean, sure, there are a lot of one-day holidays coming up. MLK Day, President's Day, my birthday, St. Patrick's Day, Easter. But there's no all-weekend family get-together type holidays. Now, for the next serious holiday, you're looking at Memorial Day. Parades, cemetery visits, family picnics, maybe some early shore time. But wow, that's a long way off. So let's relax a bit. I've got a good interview for you, one I did back in October with Herman Mihalich, the founder distiller for Dad's Hat Rye, one of my 3 favorite Pennsylvania whiskeys. I'm very pleased with how it turned out, too. We recorded it in their concrete and brick warehouse, and when I listened to it, it was filled with echoes, worse than I remembered. But I found this nifty little piece of software, a plugin for my editing app, Audacity, that did a great job toning the echoes down. It's not AI, it's human-coded stuff, which is important to me. The only thing in Seen Through a Glass that knowingly uses AI is that little clip of Oktoberfest music I use once a year, and I have a plan for replacing that this year. What else? Well, how about I tell you about some light cooking we did, and a little bit of travel, and we'll call it a day. Like I said, I'm tired, and it is a good interview. First, though, here's what I'm drinking today. What I'm drinking today is the latest release of Troegs Nugget Nectar, an annual release of this 7.5%. Yet don't call it an IPA because this beer self-identifies as an Imperial Amber Ale. It's stuffed with whole cone hops, Nugget, Tomahawk, Simcoe, Palisade, and Warrior. I picked this can up at the brewery 2 days ago. It had just come out. Has a Best By date of April 29th. You know, I remember visiting Troegs Brewery years ago, and John Trogner showed me the hop store, their refrigerated hop storage area. It was full to the 15-foot ceiling with bales of fresh hops. That's just for Nugget Nectar, he told me. I was gobsmacked. My best Nugget Nectar memory, because this is that kind of beer, it was on a bike ride with my brothers-in-law. We rode a rail trail from Cockeysville, Maryland to York, Pennsylvania. And about halfway, we stopped in New Freedom, just over the border into Pennsylvania, after climbing a relatively steep part of the rail trail through a narrow rock cut. We were hot, we were worn, and the sidewalk bar along the trail looked like just what we needed. And they had Nugget Nectar on draft. I think we each had 2, well, except Kurt, who's just not a hop drinker, and I think he had Double Buck instead. And then we get back on the bikes. It was a wild ride down into York from there. Yes, indeed. Let's have a taste of this year's batch. Wow, a lot of nose. No surprise there. Pine. No surprise. Citrus pith. There's an almost spicy note. Oh, what is that? Almost like allspice. But the, if you will, the sharp part of allspice, not the like pie and pumpkin beer spice edge of it. Wow, I'm going to try this. You know, big but friendly, kind of like me. By the way, gorgeous color. It really is a beautiful amber beer. Wow, and that 7.5% is just kind of peeking around the corner like, yoo-hoo, remember me. Wow, that is all too easy to drink. There is malt there, but it doesn't get thick. There's hop flavor, but there's also bitterness. This is like a, not a West Coast IPA, but a West Coast amber. Too many beers have disappeared, and amber ale is one of them. And I thank Troegs for keeping this one around. Yeah, I got 2 4-packs of this, so there's 7 of these big 16-ounce cans left. Go out and find some. It's that time of year. And of course, I do have your smack dab in the center, sponsored by the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau. Did you have a great time over the holidays, going out for fun, food, and drinks? And do you feel a little woozy from it? Well, if you're in that boat and you're giving dry January a try, I've got some great Center County suggestions for you. And they're all at our local excellent booze producers because this is a tough month for them. If you support them, they'll be ready for you when you want to drink in February. If you don't already know, Otto's Pub makes a delicious line of soft drinks: raspberry cream, orange, grape, and root beer, ginger beer, and birch beer. And of course, you can get them at Otto's, but did you know you can also drink them at Hofbrau Pizza in Belfont and find them at area grocery stores to make great ice cream floats? You can get a double helping of local in Millheim. Stop by Elk Creek Cafe to challenge my team at Wednesday Night Trivia with Quizmaster Jay, and you can get a deliciously tart and fizzy drink made with a bright variety of Tate Farm shrubs. Tate Farm has been making these drinks forever, and they're nationally known and locally enjoyed. And it might not seem intuitive to find zero-proof cocktails at a distillery, but Big Spring Spirits in Belfont has a special dry January menu of 10 mocktails, including NA mimics of a White Russian and a Blackberry Smash, and, I love this, straight-up new creations of wonderful flavors that have no alcohol in them and do not mimic any kind of known cocktail. They're not fake anything. They're just great drinks that stand on their own. I also want to mention one place that can come to you. The adventurous freelance bartenders at Nomadic Spirits are experts at zero-proof cocktails, and they can bring their bar trailer to your event or just pack up their gear and goods and work at your bar, party, wedding reception, what have you. Dry January isn't dull, it's delicious. Go to the happyvalley.com website, click on the Eat and Sip button, and find more info at the brewery's link. You can still support your local, even in dry January. Now, I don't have a lot to tell you before the interview because we talk about the history of the distillery and Herman's background and some rye whiskey history, some of which you've already heard in previous episodes, but Herman has a slightly different take on it. I did want to mention that the Distillery Tasting Room in downtown Bristol is a comfy place that features a Boilermaker menu designed by yours truly, featuring different area craft beers paired carefully with the different bottlings of Dad's Hat Rye whiskey. There are significant differences among the whiskeys, and I made sure we found beers that worked with each of them. I take Boilermakers pretty seriously. I would also mention that we did this interview the afternoon I launched American Whiskey Masterclass there at the distillery. I appreciate Herman hosting the event, and I was proud to do it there, both because I am a fan of the whiskey and because, as we mentioned, Bristol was where both the Beam and Overholt families landed in America after emigrating from Germany. It's pretty significant. There are also some good places to eat in Bristol if you're visiting the distillery. Cesare's Italian is simple and delicious. The King George II Inn first opened in 1681, and it's right on the river. Hell, the Overholts may well have eaten there when they arrived. And Herman always sends me to Mazzanti's Market to get a sandwich for the ride home, and it's an excellent recommendation. Here we go. I'll see you on the other side. Hey, I'm here with Herman Mihalich, the co-founder and distiller at Dad's Hat. At Mountain Laurel Spirits.
Correct.
Which the brand is Dad's Hat Rye Whiskey.
That's correct.
Might as well start with that. What the hell's up with that? I mean, understand Mountain Laurel, Pennsylvania.
Mountain Laurel Spirits, we had to pick a name when we registered the company. Mountain Laurel is the state flower of Pennsylvania. So we picked that just as a corporate name. When we went to Signature Communications, who's done all of our marketing work for us, they noticed that I do wear my dad's hats, and they thought that would be a fun, both the backstory of where I grew up out in Western Pennsylvania. My grandfather started a speakeasy. We had a bar that was open until the mill closed in the 70s. So that whole
back up here.
Yeah.
Let's not rush through all that. That's good stuff. What is that?
So, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania in a little town called Menneson, Pennsylvania, which was about a mile downriver from the Gibson Distillery, which was at the time the largest whiskey distillery in North America. And in the teens, 100 years ago plus.
And this is all in the Monongahela Valley.
Yeah. So my grandfather was working in the still mill there, actually the wire mill. And during, when Prohibition came along, he got tired of working in the mill and opened a speakeasy that became our family tavern in 1933.
And this was in your house?
Yeah, well, I lived upstairs.
Okay.
We lived in the apartment upstairs. The bar was downstairs, and he was a smart businessman, and the place was open basically 2 blocks away from the mill gate. So 8 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and midnight, shift change, place was always packed with guys on their way home, and maybe a few guys on their way in.
Yeah.
Too. But
We're not judging.
we're not judging. And he was a rye whiskey drinker. He drank rye whiskey made at the Gibson distillery in the teens.
Okay.
So
And what brand would that, just Gibson?
Gibson, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. He was he always drank rye whiskey. Even when he moved in with us, when he was an older man, he would tell me, bring me my medicine, which was 2 fingers of at the time, basically Old Overholt and Sam Thompson.
Okay.
Were the only 2 you can get.
I was going to ask, yeah.
He preferred Sam Thompson, but Sam Thompson went away in the mid 70s.
Oh,
And then in the late 70s, early 80s, basically Old Overholt was really it. So all the good old brands were gone, even the Shenleys and all those guys.
yeah.
So that was, that's where I grew up. So the idea of calling it Dad's Hat was part of the backstory of, because, I do wear my dad's hats, and the fact that those ties back to Western Pennsylvania. But I think the genius of the brand is more the marketing guys using that as a symbol to associate our brand with the nostalgia of bringing rye whiskey back to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So, when we started Dad's Hat in 2011, there was nobody making rye whiskey in Pennsylvania. There's nobody making whiskey in Pennsylvania.
That was actually one of the questions I had here. You have a lot of Pennsylvania imagery in your bottle and your branding. I suspect more than most people realize. Why is that important?
Well, Pennsylvania is, despite the fact what other states might claim, Pennsylvania has a strong claim to where, let's say, American whiskey was born. I mean, you had back in the late 1600s, early 1700s, distillers, many of whom were the Mennonites who started.
Moravians?
And the Baumbergers, Old Overholt, the Overholtzers.
Right.
And so, that.
Beams, briefly, right?
Yes. In fact, I'll have to show it to you. I actually was, my mother's family was from central Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. They're an old Pennsylvania family. And the church I was baptized in was Beams Church.
Really?
Yeah. So I was baptized in Beams Church.
And they landed here in Bristol, I believe.
Yes.
The
They did.
Beams and the Overholts.
Yeah, because Bristol was a major port.
Right.
And so there was.
Hard as that is to believe now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so that was part of using that backstory about the history, not just my family history, but the history of Pennsylvania whiskey in general, I thought was a powerful story that was, could get people to pay attention to the brand.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you wind up on the other end of the state from?
I went to college at University of Pennsylvania in 1976 when I graduated high school.
For?
Chemical engineering. Mm-hmm. That's where I met my wife. I've been married since 81, so it's a long time.
Congratulations.
So, I stayed here on the East Coast. Aside from I did a 5-year stint overseas in the 90s. Worked in France for 5 years. But other than that, ended up here in the Philadelphia area. Loved it.
And what were you doing?
I was a business director for a large company, a French chemical company.
Okay.
And so I worked in the chemical industry and later in the fragrance and flavors industry until 2011 when we started this.
And you started this because, why not?
You were actually part of the story. In 2006, the article in the New York Times, where you and a bunch of other guys
Tasted rye whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw the article, and I said, it sort of hit that spark of remembering my grandpap and my dad, and rye whiskey and the history and all that stuff. So it started as the first thing is my wonderful wife, she bought me all those whiskeys from the article for Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, including Red Hook Rye.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it was a great Christmas.
Right.
And
good God, some of those bottles would be worth a lot today.
the
Red Hook is crazy.
Red Hook is like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Crazy. So I started chatting with John Cooper, my business partner, and say, wouldn't it be fun to bring whiskey back to Pennsylvania? And at first it was just kind of a running joke. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were saying that back then.
Yeah, it was
not many of them actually did it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in 2009, we got serious about it, and so my brother said, "Why don't you write the business plan?" So I wrote the business plan, and we started doing some work with Michigan State University, who used to have the artisan distillery program.
Right.
Because as a chemical engineer, I wanted to work out all the kinks on the process side before we started just diving into the deep end. And so we wrote the business plan. We had somebody from one of the guys up at Michigan State who actually agreed to come and run the distillery. And then his girlfriend didn't want to move to Pennsylvania, so the money was raised, the equipment was on its way.
Oh no, that's how you became.
And that's how it became the distillery. Yeah.
I don't think I ever heard that story.
Yeah. That's how we got started here.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have said that at the beginning of the interview. We've known each other quite a few times. I mean, I live 20 minutes from here.
Yeah.
My son's worked here.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
and I met when I first got interested, I started doing little side trips. There's a distillery manufacturer, a still maker, one of the German ones, not the one we went with, called Holstein. Mm-hmm. And they had a seminar, a 3-day seminar in Arizona that I attended, just to sort of familiarize myself with what other people are doing and so forth. And then went to see. I had some old artifacts from my grandfather and my father. There was one of them had a shot glass, a branded shot glass called Tioga Rye. So I went on a website that
Wow.
you remember the Pre-Pro? I think it's still around. There's a Pre-Pro website that's all about.
Oh yes, the Pre-Pro whiskey man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy just died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I met Sam Komlenik there, and
My condolences.
yeah. So through email we connected up, and we were able to connect with some people in where Michter's was located, and went to visit their old location. And so that was part of the education of learning about the history of Pennsylvania whiskey, and then learning more about the details. Dick Stoll took us on a tour.
Wow.
We managed to cut through the fence and go through the distillery. But I don't think it was quite authorized. And we drank a lot of great whiskeys afterwards. Sam always comes well equipped with, and John Lippman was there too.
Oh God, between the two of them.
Yeah, it was a extravaganza for sure. So that was part of the education process, and then working on the process with Michigan State University, enabled us to start up in 2011, sort of hitting the ground running. So we had a process I was very happy with, and we had vetted the recipe to be something that was calls on the history of Pennsylvania rye. So it's.
And where did you get that? Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I want to go right into that. You have I don't want to say a unique recipe, but your recipe is quite different. Your rye whiskey tastes quite different. Where'd that come from?
But you look at the recipes that were being practiced in the pre-pro and just after Prohibition, the 80%
in southwestern PA,
all over the state.
Okay.
Because even Dick Stoll told me, he said, he would never, his usually would be working with minimum 15% malt. So we went with 20% malt because when I looked at some of the recipes, they were 15 and 20.
Okay.
Because back in the old days, you couldn't buy enzymes.
Right.
So you had to have enough malt to turn your mash.
Yeah, you don't want it starved.
Right. So we went with 20% malt.
Okay.
The malt we used was actually coached at Michigan State because we knew we were going to be selling our whiskey, and we still do sell our whiskey, some of it relatively young. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to be sure that it was really tasty right out the still. So we're using 2-row brewer's malt. Mm-hmm. We're not using 6-row distiller's malt.
Right.
So, and that was part of the recommendation of Michigan State that, to give us a much broader flavor profile, with that malty, fruity side. It's not a dark malt, but it's like a biscuit roasted malt. Mm-hmm. And that gives us a lot of great flavor right off the still. Like our white is actually it's really delicious.
Yes.
So we wanted to stick with the Pennsylvania, and so many of the ones we saw were the 80-15 or 85-15, 80-20 balance, and with no corn and a sweet mash.
And when you say so many of the ones we saw, you're talking about historical recipes.
Historical recipes.
Yeah.
I did a lot of digging online.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. I mean, it's even better now, but even back then, there was a database that Stanford University used to keep.
Really?
Of publications in the alcohol industry, mostly wine focused. Mm-hmm. But I was able to find some really interesting articles. One guy did a 3-page article, deep dive in the 1890s about his visit to Old Overholt
Oh, wow.
in Western Pennsylvania, And so he described in a lot of detail the fact that it was not a rick house, it was a warehouse like we're sitting amongst our barrels right now in a warehouse. So, warehouse aging and, and in the recipes were all things that were referenced in the research we did ahead of time.
Wow. I want to ask you a bunch of questions all at the same time, and when I'm done, we can work on finding an answer to them.
Okay.
All right. So why do you only make rye whiskey? Why this particular kind? Because, I remember you telling me one time you had gotten results back from a competition asking, are you sure this is rye whiskey?
Yeah.
Do you consider your whiskey Monongahela rye, even though you're, almost a stone's throw from the Delaware? So you see where I'm?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to circle something here.
I do think, even though you can talk about, whether it's a territorial or, geographical reference, but I do think it's the Monongahela style. And I do claim that. And I'm actually being a little more vocal about that now that people are taking more notice. In the beginning, a lot of people didn't even know what the hell that meant. So Pennsylvania rye, Monongahela rye, because like Michter's, for example, Michter's was made in Lebanon County. It was not Western Pennsylvania. So yes, that's the style we were going for. That's the style I remember growing up.
So just to clarify there, the stuff Dick Stoll was making at what was by then called Michter's is in a roughly Monongahela style?
I think so.
Okay.
I wasn't.
It was pot stills.
Well, they had a column.
Oh, they did have a column.
They had a column.
Yeah.
They did have a column. They had a pot still, but they made most of their whiskey.
Most of it on the column, yeah. And they were they heated warehouses?
No.
Wow. So it's
not. So
it's out there.
So
okay.
Again, for me, it's the 80-20 balance.
Okay.
And the other thing, and this is something that, I mentioned John Cooper, my business partner, who has a very, I would say, educated whiskey palate. He's a Scotch guy. He likes a lot of different things.
Mentioned that a number of times, yeah.
I'm kind of a one-trick pony. If I'm drinking whiskey, it's going to be either, it's going to be rye, or if I'm drinking bourbon, the only bottle of bourbon on my bar right now is Old Granddad Bottle and Bond. Which is a high rye bourbon.
Very high rye bourbon, yeah.
And by the way, for $28, I don't think you can't beat it anywhere. It's really good whiskey.
Yeah.
So John had a more analytical approach to our tasting. For me, it was way more emotional because, for me, it's when I smell our rye, it reminds me of the rye that when my grandfather said, "Hey, bring me my medicine before dinner." 2 fingers of rye, and that for me, that clicks a button in my head. That's what I've always been using as my guiding post. So it's in that style, and my in those days, my grandfather was drinking either Old Overholt or Sam Thompson.
Oh, right.
Which was made at the Shenley distillery.
Okay.
Sometimes I heard some of it was made also from time to time at Michter's as well.
Oh,
there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, I remember Dick had mentioned, about a number of other people's ryes.
There was bouncing around, a funny little story that I enjoy telling because it's a great story. I think Sam Komlenik brought me a bottle that had still whiskey in it of Sam Thompson several years ago that we managed to polish off, and so I was looking at the bottle and it says distilled in or bottled in or something like that in Aladdin, Pennsylvania. So I had no idea what that meant.
No.
So I had a guy who was helping us file all of our paperwork and stuff. He used to work. He was worked with the TTB or the ATF, whatever. And he's retired, but he's from Pittsburgh. So I asked him. I said, what's the deal? What's this Aladdin, Pennsylvania? And he told me the story. It was the Shenley distillery. They set up a town called Aladdin.
No.
And it's just a warehouse next door. So now if you Google Aladdin, Pennsylvania, it's a warehouse in Shenley, Pennsylvania.
Oh my God.
Because they could officially move it to another location, change the name, and throw people off as to where it's coming from. So so you can Google it, Aladdin, Pennsylvania.
That's very cool. I did not know that. That's a good story.
Yeah.
This is a little, I don't want to say it's a pet peeve because that puts too much on it, but the demand for transparency, I think sometimes goes beyond what's important. It's like people just have to know every single thing. And I'm like, could you just shut up and actually taste the whiskey? Would you mind doing that? Because that really matters to me a lot.
Yeah, I guess, but I do think transparency is important. I mean, we don't hide anything. People
you don't.
people come for tours. They could take pictures. They could in the beginning I was hiding the malt we were using because it's a specific kind of it's a Munich style malt. Truth be told. So, and we picked it because we did several different malts that we tried at Michigan State, and that's the one we liked the best. But I don't know. I think I'll come down on not being like the whiskey police, but I think transparency is pretty important.
Okay, I just feel like it gets carried away sometimes. Like people are asking for stuff they don't even pay attention to. They just want to be asking. I don't know.
I don't mind.
Okay, all right. Take us through the process of how you make whiskey from when the grain comes through the door.
Well, we have a great relationship with a farmer right here in Bucks County. The Meese family, the current, I say young man, young guy, who is the guy we deal with in the family. His name is Nevada, is his first name, Nevada Meese. And they're right here in Bucks County.
See, that's I wanted to interrupt you there. Right here in Bucks County, they're at opposite ends. So
Yeah, but
Bucks
County. it's not Indiana, it's not Canada, it's not Sweden.
It is in Bucks County. What is it, 30 miles?
Something like that.
Yeah, okay.
But,
Okay.
But I mean, we're not buying it.
I know.
It's still Bucks County. I mean, we're not bringing it from another part of the world.
No.
And we have a great relationship with them. One of the things that's great about what they do is he is very meticulous about how he does his job. I mean, taking care to leave the rye in the ground until mid-July. We're not getting unripe berries. We're getting very mature, ripe rye berries. He's very careful about how he dries it, how he stores it, how he cleans it.
I remember you said he actually spent the money to get
his cleaner is adapted to cleaning rye. Again, I'm not a farmer, but my understanding is that there's a fair amount of rye is cleaned in corn equipment, and which lets stuff get through.
much
I
different
guess.
size. Yeah.
So we've had people come look at our rye who are skeptical, and they look at it and go, wow, that's very clean. It's very fragrant because it's very ripe, and so he really does a great job for us, making sure we get first quality rye grain to work with.
I came across talking about farmers growing rye in Pennsylvania. I came across an interesting thing. Pennsylvania is the fourth largest state for acreage of rye.
Right.
But we're not even in the top 10 for harvest.
Yeah, because it's cut for
It's
straw.
cover crop. Yeah, or straw.
It's cut for straw and hay in the spring. It's a cover crop because that's the other great thing about rye. It's from a sustainability point of view, it's a very sustainable crop because it holds soil. It's and again, I'm going to overstep my agricultural knowledge. It fixes nitrogen.
It's a
I think
nitrogen fixer.
fixer. Yeah. So it helps the soil.
Yep.
It keeps it weathering down during the wintertime. And it doesn't require as many inputs as corn. You don't. In terms of pest control, all that kind of stuff. It's a much.
I mean, from farmers I've talked to, it's almost like you have to stop it from growing.
Yeah, it's really very. And from a sustainability point of view, that's one of the reasons why. Well, we qualified and we won a Good Food Award from Alice Waters.
Nice.
10 years ago, because part of the sustainability profile is the overall impact that your product is having on the environment, and the fact that we at the time our bottles are made in Pennsylvania. We were getting our grain in Pennsylvania. We take our hot water comes from the condenser on our still, so we're saving energy, saving water, all those kinds of aspects to it. But rye itself is a very sustainable crop, and having someone who pays as close attention to it as Nevada does for us is really great.
I mean, not for nothing, but so close, less transportation.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, sure. Yep.
Yeah.
So all those aspects to it. So we have a great relationship with him, and he does a great job for us.
Okay, so we've got the grain. Now what do you do?
Well,
Sorry, we just spent a lot of time on the grain.
We did.
Which is fun.
And right now, most of the malt we use is actually from Wisconsin.
Okay.
From Breese. And that's because there was nobody malting at the time.
No, there's still nobody really malting at the scale you need, is there?
Probably not. I mean, so there's a couple guys who could probably do it, but we use 15% of our mash bill is malted barley, 5% is malted rye. We're buying the malted rye from a local malter.
Oh, okay.
But we're hesitant to change the malt, the barley malt, because it does contribute a lot to our flavor profile. And even though these guys are producing a malt in a similar style locally, I just don't want to take that sort of jump
That's a risk.
So that, because we have a style, we like to cultivate that. So
Yeah. Okay.
So-
we got the grain in.
we bring the grain in, we mill it here. We have we do a temperature controlled mash, and it's a sweet mash, and
And mash, just for my listeners. What the mashing process?
the mashing process. We put a base load of hot water in the mash tank, and we convey on a screw conveyor from the mill the flour, the rye grain and malt flour.
Oh, they're combined at that point.
We mix them together. Yeah,
Okay.
we load the hopper kind of together.
Okay.
It takes about an hour to feed everything in through the mill, and that screw conveyor then drops it into the mash tank. We pump hot water to the top of the tank, and there's a spray up there that sprays the flour as it's falling, so it wets out very nicely.
Yeah.
We have a big agitator inside, so that we don't have any problem with mixing. One of the things that we worked on, and we've continued to work on over the years, is a lot of people who make rye will tell you that making rye mash is a pain.
Heard it many times.
Yeah. We, Travis is one of the guys working here. He's a chemical engineer from Drexel. He's been studying the process as well. And we have a temperature regime that we follow in the mash, which enables us to get really good mixing and good yields without having balling and all these other problems that the other people are having.
Huh.
So that's a little proprietary thing that we've been working on.
No, that's fair.
But because our mash tank, we can either inject steam directly, or we have a cooling jacket, so we vary the temperature through the mash, and we can control it pretty precisely.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that we do. That's sort of a little, having a really digital thermometer control. We can see exactly what's going on, and sort of dial it in every time. So we get a really good yield and a really nice sweet mash every time.
And again, for clarification, when you say sweet mash, you're not doing a sour mash. You're not reusing.
We're not sour mashing, no.
Yeah.
And that is the Pennsylvania tradition as well.
Yeah.
And we, so we get, we start off, it smells like we're baking bread, and after 2 hours, that beautiful, sweet, malty smell, it just takes over the whole place. It smells great. And then we have a heat exchanger. We crash cool it, just like you might with a beer wort,
Yeah.
Crash cool it, and then it goes into our fermenters,
And you're pulling off wort. You're not distilling on grain.
No, you are distilling.
Oh, yes,
on grain. Yes, we
Okay.
are. Yeah. So the whole mash goes
whole
right
thing.
into the
Okay.
fermenter, and the fermenters are also jacketed with a temperature control system, which keeps the temperature in a very tight range. And we do low and slow. We do 5 days, and we keep a very tight temperature control. We don't want any temperature excursions, which might cause off flavors to be produced by the yeast. By the way, the yeast that we are using is an old yeast that's been around for quite a while. It was recommended to us by one of the guys at Michigan State. It's an old Red Star yeast, but whiskey yeast that is now made by a company called LaSalle.
Oh.
And it was recommended by them as something that would be typical, sort of almost not quite historical, but it's been around for a long time. It's great for whiskey. It does a great job in terms of yield and the flavor we like as well. So that's the yeast that we're using.
Okay.
And then it's the 5 days low and slow in the fermenter, and then we have a pot still. It's a hybrid pot with a side column. So we do the first distillation strip
And roughly alcohol content at this point?
between 8 and 9%
Okay.
in the mash.
Yep. And I mean, you've already said it, but I just want to emphasize fermentation doesn't just create alcohol.
It creates tasty flavors.
Yeah,
Yep.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of good flavors. So we then we go to the still. We do a stripping run, which is basically just getting the alcohol out and whatever comes with it. So it's not discriminated at all. Just get it out, and we skip the column. We go straight from the pot to the condenser,
Okay.
and so resulting in our low wines, which are about 40% alcohol, and those low wines go back into the still a second time for the finishing run. And the finishing run is where we deploy that side column, which enables us to do a really fine tuning on selecting our cuts. We talked about this earlier today, but are we making the same thing we made 14 years ago, absolutely not.
Right.
When we first started, we were afraid that if we took a too fat a cut off the still, that whiskey would have to age for so long, we'd be out of business before we could sell anything. So we actually, even today, like if we're making cuts for our white, which we sell a lot for cocktails, we take a cleaner cut off the still. If it's going to go into, we still use 15-gallon barrels, and which we age for about a year. And we
use the bigger ones.
We
use
53s
too.
Yeah, we use 53s, and all of our straight whiskeys 53s. But we blend for our 90 proof classic. We blend some of the 53s into the 15s. But those 15s, the whiskey going in there has to be pretty clean because it's only going to be aged for a year. And so we can take a really tight. We have a very high rectification on the column in the beginning to make sure our heads are very separated very cleanly from the rest. And we can do that by playing with the plates on the column, the amount of water going to the condenser. So we get a really clean separation of our heads. And then when we transition to the hearts, we then open the column up and let things through more. And then we reverse the process as we get towards the tails, where we can then deploy our plates, and we change the amount of water going to the condenser to then force more tails back into the still to get better extraction, and then manage more. That's where we do a much more active management of what we let go into the final white spirit and what we don't. And that has changed over time. We were a bit gun shy in the beginning to be too aggressive there, but the whiskey going into our 53s for the past, I don't know, probably 7 years or more, we've been pushing that envelope further and further because we've discovered that you might hit a little blip once in a while as you get closer to the tails, but if you're patient, you get into some really nice flavors that we're now harvesting.
So previously it was a cleaner cut,
tighter
cut.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And now we've got, now we're aging all of our straight whiskeys, minimum 4 years. We got barrels sitting around here now. It's all 5 and 6 years old. So, plenty of time for some of that funky stuff on the tail side to turn itself into really tasty flavors.
Yeah. More stuff. When you opened, people were still kind of warming up to rye.
Yeah.
I mean, most people didn't even know what it really was. It was just something you saw in a movie or something. How did you help them along? What was the education process?
That's a difficult process for us because when you're making whiskey and you're depending on how much money you have to decide whether you're gonna take your dollars and put them into more whiskey or into marketing and education. So we relied on trying to get involved what was then an emerging social media, talking with people like you and some other people in the journalism side. We had Chuck Cowdery come out here, wrote an article in 2019, I guess. So even earlier though, it was more just on your feet. Me and John going out doing tastings in bars and restaurants and liquor stores across the country, and it was really a full-time job getting out there and educating people.
Except you had to do this full-time job too.
Yeah, well, we had in the beginning. I was the only. John hadn't even quit yet, so I was by myself. But 10 years ago, when Travis came on board, he's done a great job, and we've had a few other people come in part time in the meantime as well. And in the beginning, we weren't operating 24/7 for sure. So you set your schedule up so you can liberate some time to get out and most of the tasting stuff is done later in the day. So you get out and particularly in places like New Jersey, New York, Delaware, Maryland, and Pennsylvania to a certain degree with bars and restaurants, getting out and just, meet and greet, that's the only way we were able to do it. Really.
Yeah. Well, that's classic though.
Yeah. And it's as cost effective. And I think people appreciate it. They still do. I mean, I'm still doing tours on Saturdays, so we've been doing tours since the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to connect with people.
When they realize that you're the guy.
Yeah, and and they could ask any questions they want, and you get some people come in just from curiosity, but we get a lot of people come in who are genuinely interested in learning a lot about exactly how things are done, and they ask great questions, and it's a fun afternoon on Saturdays. We cut it back a little bit. We're doing like 2 times a month now, because a lot of the casual folks they find themselves going over to our tasting room on Mill Street.
Oh, okay.
Because there you can
Sure.
do flights, you could taste different, samples. And
You
of
can
course,
still ask questions.
it still has questions. Our bartenders are great. We've had the same bunch for a while now, and we make a point of making sure they come in and educate themselves. They come over to the distillery and they'll sit down on the tours, and so they're very knowledgeable.
So if someone's never had Dad's Hat, where should they start? How should they drink it? What do you do?
Well, obviously there's a lot of classic cocktails. There's it's Manhattans or old fashions. We call those are our gateway drugs. And we get people to warm up to it, and even if it's just a highball, a rye and ginger highball is a great way to enjoy rye whiskey. We have if that's probably if you're unfamiliar, that's a good way to start. But if you're already into bourbon, you might want to try some of the guys who are really into bourbon. They'll hesitate because they say rye is a little too spicy or dry. But some of our the whiskey, because we use a lot of malt, and particularly for our straight rye, our 95 proof straight, which is all older than 4 years, it's got enough barrel on it where it's more like familiar territory for bourbon drinkers. And we do a couple of fun things too. We do a couple of cask finishes with maple and honey.
Yep.
That we try to be very light on the maple and honey touch. We don't want it to. It's whiskey first.
Yeah, it's not a liqueur.
No.
Yeah.
It's whiskey with just a little hint. In fact, in some cases, particularly with the honey one, if people go, "What is that?" And then you tell them it's honey, they go, "Oh yeah, okay, there we go." And
you're not adding honey to the whiskey. Yeah.
No, what we do, we put honey in a used barrel. Mm-hmm. We take the honey out. We put whiskey in that honey, the barrel that had honey in it. Mm-hmm. So we're in a roundabout way adding honey to it. There's a little bit of honey, but a little bit of honey. Yeah. And it's just a fun way to do it. And we used to sell the honey, but it's the people who were helping us bottle it finally gave up, because when you put honey in a barrel, it picks up all the char.
Oh.
And filtering char out of honey it's not fun. Wow. It's a pain.
Yeah. I think I had one more question for you, but you already answered that. I was going to ask you what you drink when you're not drinking your own stuff, but.
Oh, I would say if I'm doing bourbon, it'll be Old Granddad.
Yeah.
That was.
You drink beer too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoy beer, and my son's a brewer. Mm-hmm. He cut his teeth making beer at home with me before we started the distillery a long time ago. So now he works for Bristol Brothers up in Maine.
Okay.
So but it was fun to watch the beer evolution from the beginning, and of course, one of my sad stories is that in 1984 I actually wrote a business plan for a brewery, for a craft brewery. Yeah. And I was up to my ears in debt from graduate school, and so I had to go to work, so I never did it. But it was I wrote the business plan when I was in Wharton graduate school, and it was my final project. Oh. And it was very supportive. The professor who was my sponsor was very supportive. I was able to consult with. There's a brand which is returned, but it had gone for a while. It's from Jones Brewing called Stoney's.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stoney's was the house beer in my dad's bar, dad and grandpa's bar.
Of course it was.
Because it was made right in Smithton, which is right down the road from our friend Sam's hometown.
Yeah. I think Sam's dad
Sam's dad worked there, yeah. So they were still operating, and my dad was still very good friends with the family, the Jones family, and Ed Hogan, who was the sales manager. So I was able to go there and get a lot of coaching from them about operating a brewery and so forth. But I never pulled the trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
84 would have been a good time to pull the trigger.
I don't know. Maybe a little too early in the East Coast. Maybe. Maybe.
I mean, Anchor Steam was out there.
On the West Coast. Yeah, but I mean, Albany Ale. Not around anymore. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. Yeah. All right. I think that's it.
Well, cool. I'm glad you were able to stop in, and we're looking forward to welcoming a few people tonight to your book signing.
It's the book launch day.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
Yeah, we'll have a good time.
We'll probably taste a couple things.
More than likely. One or two.
I've got a couple of barrels lined up down there, so it should be good.
Sweet. Thanks, Herman.
Great.
Appreciate it.
See you.
Okay, you still with me? Dad's Hat Rye whiskeys are available in the Pennsylvania state stores, but chances are very good they have it near wherever you are, because Herman and John have been hustling this stuff all over the country and in Europe, though the overseas sales have taken a hit in the current trade climate. Try some, and get an idea of what Monongahela rye used to taste like. Now, let's talk about some stuff I made for the holiday parties we went to. I made hot smoked salmon and smoked nuts, and people loved them. It sounds hard, but it's actually pretty easy if you have a smoker, and it's not that much harder if you just have a charcoal or gas grill. And even better, if you have the room, you can do them both at the same time. So let's do that because it's what I did. It's so easy, I did it twice in 2 weeks. If you have a smoker, you're already good to go. Use fruit wood, like apple or oak, or some alder. You can add a little hickory to the blend, but I'd avoid too much, or mesquite. They'll overwhelm the salmon. If you have a grill, you're going to need to get a cast iron smoke box to set in there with your wood chips, or a smoke tube. The Camp Fit pellet smoker is perfect for this because it only has a burn time of about 2 hours, and frankly, it's cheap. If you get the smoke tube, get some pellets. Same kind of wood choice. The whole thing should run you under $20. And then you've got it for the next time, or smoking sausage, or those smoked stuffed peppers I told you about. Read the instructions and get it prepped. Get a fillet of salmon. I like to get it at Aldi because the price is good and they pledge that it's fresh, never frozen. I know that frozen is a kind of flexible term in food regulations, but the salmon at Aldi is always good for being farmed. If you've got the money to buy wild salmon, well, God bless you, but believe me, smoking the farm stuff creates a pretty good product. Take the salmon out of the packaging, lay it out on a long cutting board or a platter, and pat it dry with paper towels on both sides, patting down the board or platter too. Then sprinkle it with a little large crystal or flaked salt, not a lot, and some spices if you want. I used dry dill and Summer Kitchen's original seasonal. Go easy, you want this to enhance the salmon, not overwhelm it. If you have room, put the salmon in the fridge uncovered for at least an hour. This sets up the surface of the salmon to take the smoke better, but it's not essential. The nuts are really easy. Just get some salted mixed nuts. I usually add some peanuts and some Brazil nuts. Smoked Brazil nuts are the best way to eat Brazil nuts, in my humble opinion. My daughter will caution you, as she does me, don't eat too many Brazil nuts. They're stuffed with selenium, and you can get too much of that. About 5 a day is completely safe, unless you also have a can of sardines that day, because also selenium. You'll need to get some kind of mesh tray to hold the nuts, and it wouldn't hurt to have one of those for the salmon because it can get kind of floppy. You can buy them at grill places, or you can get a perforated pizza pan at a restaurant supply house. I got one for $5. Make sure they fit in your grill. It's time to smoke. Set your smoker or grill to about 225 degrees. If you're using the smoke tube, light one end and set it in the proper position. Once it's going, you're ready to smoke. Carefully pour the nuts onto your mesh pad and place them on the grill or in the top rack of your smoker. Now put the salmon on the grill or on a smoker rack. If you have another mesh rack, that's optimal. Close it up and pour yourself a beer. And then you wait an hour. Don't open the cooker, just let it go at 225 and maybe have another beer. Listen to some music. After an hour, take the nuts out and pour them into a large bowl to cool. Don't eat any for at least 2 hours because they'll taste like crap and you'll wonder why you did this. I'm not kidding. Once they cool, they're going to taste fine. While they're still warm, they just taste awful. Leave the salmon in there. Have another beer. After 2 hours total in the smoker or grill, take a fork and see if the salmon flakes easily. If it does, give it another 15 minutes before taking it out. If it doesn't want to pull apart, leave it in for another half hour and then take it out because it's done. Put it on your platter or cutting board. You can eat it now hot, or you can chill it and eat it cold. It's delicious either way. And that's all there is to it. Get yourself some chopped onion or chopped hard-boiled eggs, some capers, maybe a little bit of mayonnaise mixed in with some dill. You've got a great snack there. You can even use it as an entree if you want. I did mention a little bit of travel, small but significant. Nora and I drove down to Lancaster to see my Aunt Alice, my mother's middle sister. She can still get out and enjoy herself even at 91. So we went down to take her out for Christmas lunch. Thing is, we went on a Monday. Now, that may not mean much to some of you, but traditionally in Pennsylvania Dutch country, Lancaster, Berks, and Schuylkill counties, a lot of restaurants and bars are closed on Monday and Tuesday. Places that aren't are often more modern or fast food, and maybe not the kind of places you want to take a 91-year-old woman. But thanks to friends, we found a place that was open, a place we used to go to years back, usually as a special treat, because it was kind of out of the way for us. The Brickerville House, north of Lidditz, at the intersection of routes 501 and 322. Completely coincidentally, the old Michter's Distillery is only 5 miles north on Route 501, and Stolen Wolf Distillery is 5 miles south on 501. Only a coincidence, I swear. Just happened to notice it. Anyway, the Brickerville House is cozy and old style, with plenty of good Pennsylvania Dutch rib stickers on the menu. And that's what I got. Chicken and waffles, PA Dutch style. Waffle is covered with chicken gravy, thick with chicken and peas and carrots, really whatever vegetables you have on hand. It was a regular wintertime meal when I was growing up, and the side I got was even more evocative of my childhood, fried eggplant. I'm not sure why my mother would do that, fry up 2 whole eggplants, breaded in seasoned breadcrumbs. There's no panko in those days. It was breadcrumbs out of the cardboard canister from the store, slice up the eggplant into slices, dip them in the breadcrumbs, and fry them. She'd fry eggplant for half an hour, and we'd eat plates full of them, doused in ketchup. I saw that on the menu, and I had to have it. And they were perfect, crisply breaded, not greasy, and tender tasty all the way through. Yes, I put ketchup on them, but not as much as I used to because the first taste was so good. Alice had a BLT because she never eats bacon except when I take her out. It's her naughty little exception, and I love to watch her enjoy it. Nora had a salad with grilled chicken, and the chicken had that enticing aroma of good chicken cooked just right. We had the Brickerville House specialty for dessert, chocolate cake with peanut butter icing. It's rich, it's moist, the icing is just a little bit salty. My, it's good. When I carefully drove our 84 Saab, we call her Janet, up to Milheim when we moved, I routed up Route 322 because Janet can't handle turnpike speeds. And I didn't want to overstress her, so we stopped at Brickerville for a little rest, and I had coffee and chocolate cake. It's a good stop. Let's see. The book is still selling well, and thank you for that. I sold all the books I had with me at the last taping of What's Brewing. I poured samples of the Blood Oath Pack No. 7 bourbon, which probably didn't hurt sales. I do still have plenty of copies for sale through the website, and I'll be planning some book events for the coming months. Watch the website for more information, seenthroughaglass.com. I hope to have some other things for sale on the website soon. I'm talking over podcast and whiskey masterclass merchandise with Nora later this week. Glassware is on the agenda, with possible additions of new stickers, a ball cap, and something I've always wanted to do, an enamel pin. In service of that, I'm also thinking about a new logo for the show. I don't hate the current one, but I think we need something simpler for hats and pins and such. When we have something for you, you'll see it on the website. And that's also where I'll be making any announcements about possible late episodes. We've got a few family things going right now that may potentially expand to envelop my working time. And if that happens, and your new episode isn't there Thursday morning, check the website to see why, and when you can expect the next one. Useful thing, that website. What's coming up in the area? Well, I love Elk Creek Cafe here in beautiful downtown Milheim, and their best event of the year is coming up, the Day of Delicious Darkness, the annual celebration of dark beer in the Elk Creek community. And really, it's the extended Elk Creek community because people come from well away to hook up with the place again. It's the only time you'll see a line waiting to get in, and folks, it's worth it. It's coming up on Sunday, February 22nd, starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so make your plans now. I'll see you there, I guarantee. That's the show. My thanks to Herman Mihalich for the interview. They may still have a few signed copies of the new book for sale at the distillery. As always, you can find pictures for this episode on Instagram at Stag Podcast and on Facebook at Seen Through a Glass. If you're listening to the show on the radio at WSOV, there are over 70 more episodes to enjoy at Apple Podcasts, Podbean, any of the major podcast sources. Rye is an odd grain that grows very tall and roots very deep and will grow almost anywhere that's not too hot. Pliny the Elder found it bitter, fit only for cattle, but Central and Eastern Europe embraced it, and rye is still a big crop there. A lot of it there is eaten as the heavy, unleavened rugbrød, a word to which American eyes looks like it should be pronounced rug bread. And that's half right. Bruh is bread, but ruch is simply rye. It's rye bread. And then there's pumpernickel, a type of sourdough rye bread that's made from wholemeal rye flour, making it darker and moister than rye bread made with yeast from sifted rye flour. Why is it called pumpernickel? It's from pumpern, the German word for fart, and nickel, a nickname for the devil. That's right, the devil's farts. I love mine with liverwurst and onions. Last weird rye thing. The grain is subject to infection by a mold, Claviceps purpurea, better known as ergot. Ergot grows on wet rye and if eaten causes hallucinations, burning pain, and sometimes death. Common in medieval Europe when it came to be called St. Anthony's fire, better grain handling means there are very few cases of ergotism now. The last major outbreak was in 1977 in Ethiopia. And the active compounds in ergot were explored and synthesized by Albert Hofmann, the Swiss chemist who took a famous bike ride on April 19, 1943, the first intentional LSD trip. Next episode? Oh man, we're back to this stage again. I have no idea. I have one interview in the can, but it's another distillery and I don't want to do that unless I have to. We'll see what I can come up with. I do have some good ideas. Until then, Happy New Year, and thanks for listening. This is Lou Bryson on Seen Through a Glass from the smack dab center of the Keystone State.